What if I told you that one of the biggest solutions to global drought was hiding right under our noses? Well, actually, under our feet, completely invisible. Today, we're diving into the amazing story of the humble cactus pear and the microscopic army it recruits to survive the absolute harshest conditions. It's a partnership that could honestly change the future of farming.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the challenge that even the toughest plants are up against. Then, we'll meet the tiny heroes of our story and see how scientists put this incredible partnership to the test. After that, we'll reveal exactly how these bacteria work their magic. And finally, we'll talk about what this all means for our hotter, drier world.
All right, first things first. Let's set the scene and introduce the villain of our story, widespread, relentless drought.
And look, this isn't just some local issue. From the arid plains of Africa to once fertile farmlands in California, water scarcity is a massive global challenge for food production. It puts this immense pressure on farmers who are just trying to grow crops and feed their livestock, and it threatens entire communities.
Now let's meet our hero, the cactus pear. This plant is an absolute lifeline in dry regions. It's a critical source of food, water, and energy for animals. But here's the thing, even this champion of survival has its limits. A really severe, long-term drought can still take it down, and that is a huge problem for the ecosystems that depend on it.
Okay, so if our hero, the cactus, is struggling against the villain drought, it's time to bring in a sidekick. But this isn't your typical hero's helper. Nope, it's a whole army of them, and they are completely microscopic.
We're talking about something called plant growth promoting bacteria, or PGB for short. The easiest way to think of them? They're basically probiotics for plants. They're this tiny microscopic support crew that lives in and around the roots, working behind the scenes to help their plant host not just survive, but actually thrive.
And these bacteria have some serious superpowers. I mean, they can pull essential nitrogen right out of thin air, basically creating fertilizer on demand. They produce hormones that regulate growth, they help the plant soak up more nutrients, and they even manage the plant's internal stress response. For this study, scientists were looking at 3 specific strains, IC29, IC38, and IC55.
That's an amazing skill set, right? But the real question is, would it actually work for our cactus hero under extreme pressure? To find out, scientists created the ultimate botanical bootcamp right inside a greenhouse.
So the setup was pretty straightforward. First, they planted the cactus pads. Then, they introduced those bacterial sidekicks to some of the plants, a few with fertilizer, a few without. And then came the hard part. For 150 days, they cranked up the heat and brought on a serious drought for half the group.
And when I say drought, I really mean it. The lucky, well-watered plants were kept at 50% of the soil's water capacity. The drought stress group, they were slashed all the way down to just 25%. That is a brutal, brutal condition for any plant, even a cactus.
The results were, well, they were just night and day. The cacti that had no bacteria were clearly struggling. Even adding fertilizer couldn't save them from the drought. But the plants that got the bacteria, even with no fertilizer at all, they looked remarkably healthy. I mean, almost as good as the plants that weren't even in a drought.
So this was a huge success. But how? How in the world did they do it? Let's find out exactly how this microscopic army pulled off such a dramatic rescue mission.
The clear MVPs of this stress test were 2 of the strains, IC29 and IC38. And here's the really mind-blowing part. Their performance was most impressive in the plants that got 0 chemical fertilizer. It suggests the bacteria were more than making up for the lack of it. You can see the difference so clearly on this chart. Compared to the control group, the plants with strains IC29 and IC38 showed this huge jump in drought tolerance. They were just flat out more resilient to the lack of water.
It's obvious they worked, but what was the actual mechanism? What was their secret weapon against the drought?
Well, it all comes down to something called nitrogen accumulation. Nitrogen is one of the most fundamental building blocks for a plant. It's totally essential for creating proteins, for the chlorophyll it needs to photosynthesize, and even for its DNA. Without enough nitrogen, a plant just can't grow. Simple as that. So essentially, the bacteria kicked off this amazing chain reaction of resilience. By helping the plant get more nitrogen, they fueled stronger root growth. This, in turn, allowed the plant to make smarter metabolic adjustments and use its energy way more strategically, all thanks to these tiny little organisms.
Okay, so we have a super hardy plant and a powerful microscopic ally. But what does this all mean for the real world?
Let's explore the impact this could have on our greener and definitely drier future.
The implications here are just huge. This gives us a sustainable way to grow vital animal feed in some of the world's driest places. It could dramatically reduce our need for expensive and environmentally damaging chemical fertilizers. It helps smaller farms become more resilient against climate change, and at the end of the day, that means more food for animals, which means more stability for all of us.
And what we're looking at here isn't some complex, out-of-reach technology. This is a powerful, low-cost tool. It's a way of working with nature instead of against it to make farming more sustainable for everyone.
As the researchers themselves put it, this partnership between the plant and the bacteria offers a real, tangible alternative for farming in tough conditions. It makes the plants tougher, and it increases the amount of green biomass we can produce.
It really leaves you with a fascinating thought, doesn't it? We so often look for these big, massive, grand-scale solutions to problems like climate change and drought. But maybe, just maybe, some of the most powerful answers have been here the whole time, working quietly, right beneath our feet, in the microscopic world.